The sleek diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Cooperative hovered above Earth's atmosphere, its hull gleaming under the solar rays. Inside, Ambassador Tejo adjusted his gravity compensators for the third time, wincing as the device beeped in protest. "Are you certain these readings are accurate?" he asked, turning to Science Officer Juwu. "Confirmed twice, Ambassador. This planet's gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, nearly twice what our people evolved in." Juwu's facial ridges pulsed with anxiety. The inhabitants should be primitive at best, if they even developed sentience under such crushing conditions. The standard protocol for discovering pre-spaceflight civilizations was simple: establish contact, offer technological guidance, and negotiate resource agreements favorable to the cooperative. Earth would be no different, or so they thought. "Ambassador," called Communications Officer Minji, her eyes wide. "We're receiving a transmission in 17 of our documented languages." "Impossible," Tahoe whispered. The view screen activated, showing a human woman in a formal blue suit. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Cooperative. I am Director Sunmi of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. We've been expecting you. Welcome to our system." Tahoe's gravity compensator beeped again as he nearly dropped his diplomatic tablet. "You've been expecting us. We detected your approach 3 weeks ago," Sunmi replied with a smile. "We've prepared appropriate accommodations considering your gravity requirements. Please, allow us to guide your shuttle to our orbital diplomatic center." The delegation exchanged bewildered glances. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. Tahoe took a deep breath, his 3 lungs expanding fully despite the strain of Earth's gravity pull on his chest. Even with the compensators, he felt heavy, sluggish. How could anything evolve intelligence in such conditions? "We accept your invitation, Director Sunmi," he said, trying to maintain his dignity. "Our shuttle will follow your guidance." As the communication ended, the bridge erupted in whispers. "They detected us weeks ago," Security Chief Dongo muttered. "Our cloaking technology is supposed to be undetectable." "And those languages," added Minji. "They weren't just random phrases. The grammar was perfect. The idioms were culturally appropriate. How could they learn this?" Juwu was frantically checking her readings. "Ambassador, I'm detecting artificial satellites, space stations, and is that a settlement on their moon? These beings have mastered spaceflight despite evolving on a high-gravity world." Tahoe raised his 4-fingered hand for silence. "We will proceed with caution. Prepare the shuttle. Dongho, Juwu, Minji, you'll accompany me. The rest of you, maintain orbit and be ready for emergency extraction." The shuttle journey was tense. As they approached the orbital diplomatic center, they saw it clearly through the viewports. A massive structure, elegant and efficient, clearly built for hosting various species. It rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity in some sections while others appeared to be zero-gravity environments. "They've built sections for different gravitational needs," Juwu observed. They were expecting contact with multiple species. The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. Tahoe checked his gravity compensator one final time and adjusted his ceremonial robe. "Remember your training. We represent the entire cooperative." The airlock hissed open, and Tahoe felt his legs wobble immediately. The compensator whined as it struggled to counteract Earth's pull. He had practiced walking in simulated high gravity, but the real thing was far worse. A delegation waited for them. 5 humans stood in a perfect ceremonial formation, and they stood without effort. No compensators, no visible strain. Their bodies, so similar to the cooperative standard bipedal form, but somehow denser, stronger, moved with easy grace. Director Sunmi stepped forward, towering over Tahoe by nearly a head. "Ambassador, welcome aboard. I hope the journey wasn't too taxing." Tahoe fought to keep his breathing steady. "Not at all, Director. We are honored by your welcome." Sunmi gestured to her colleagues. "May I introduce Chief Scientist Jinwoo, Security Director Yunji, communications specialist Hosiok, and cultural liaison Yerim. Each human nodded in turn, and Tahoe noticed they all wore small devices in their ears. Translation units, he guessed. Sophisticated ones. Please come this way. We've prepared a reception area with adjustable gravity settings for your comfort. As they walked, Tahoe felt increasingly uneasy. The humans moved so effortlessly. Their muscles weren't straining. Their breathing wasn't labored. They had evolved on this crushing world and thrived on it. They entered a large chamber where the gravity suddenly lightened. Tahoe felt himself nearly float upward before his compensator adjusted. We've set this chamber to match your homeworld specifications, Sunny explained. Is it comfortable? The relief was immediate. Tahoe's legs stopped trembling. His breathing eased. It's perfect. Thank you for your consideration. Of course, we understand the challenges of adapting to different environments. A table was set with foods from various worlds, including, somehow, delicacies from Tahoe's homeworld. Impossible. They couldn't have known. How did you? We've been observing the cooperative for some time, Sunny said simply. Our long-range sensors detected your activities in neighboring systems 2 years ago. 2 years? Juwoo's voice squeaked with surprise. And you learned our languages, studied our biology. We're quick learners, Jinwoo said with a slight smile. Necessity has always driven human innovation. Minji stepped forward. But your technology. It shouldn't be possible for a species from a high-gravity world to achieve spaceflight this quickly. Why not? Asked Sunny, genuine curiosity in her expression. The energy requirements alone, to escape your gravity well, would require advanced propulsion systems that typically take millennia to develop. The humans exchanged glances, and Tahoe saw something in their eyes. Amusement. Perhaps, said Hosiok, what seems difficult to some is merely a challenge to overcome for others. Tahoe felt cold dread crawling up his spine. The standard protocol assumed primitive beings grateful for assistance, eager to join the cooperative on any terms. But these humans, they didn't need guidance. They didn't need technology. And they certainly didn't appear eager to sign over their resources. Director Sunny, he said carefully, I believe we have much to learn from each other. The cooperative traditionally offers membership to newly discovered civilizations, but I suspect Earth might require special consideration. Sunny smiled, a diplomatic expression that revealed nothing of her thoughts. We look forward to those discussions, Ambassador. For now, please enjoy our hospitality. Tomorrow, we can begin formal negotiations. As they ate and conversed, Tahoe couldn't shake the feeling that everything the cooperative had assumed about first contact protocols was wrong. These gravity-defying humans weren't going to follow any standard script, and based on what he'd seen so far, negotiating with them would be the greatest challenge of his diplomatic career. Morning arrived on the orbital center with the bright glare of Earth's sun streaming through the specially designed windows. Ambassador Tahoe had slept poorly, his dreams filled with humans performing impossible feats of strength. The diplomatic team gathered in their private quarters, still adjusting to the carefully calibrated artificial gravity. I've analyzed their public networks, Juwoo reported, her facial ridges still pale with stress. They call themselves humans, and they've only achieved spaceflight within the last century. A century, Dongho exclaimed. That's impossibly fast. Their history is concerning, Juwoo continued. They'd fought countless wars among themselves. Their technological progress often came during times of conflict. Tahoe absorbed this information with growing unease. We must be cautious during today's reception. Observe everything. Say little. The diplomatic reception was held in a grand hall with one wall, made entirely of transparent material, offering a breathtaking view of Earth below. Despite himself, Tahoe had to admit the blue-green planet was beautiful. Human staff moved throughout the room, carrying trays of food and drinks. One approached the alien delegation, a young male human introduced as Kunbu. I'll take your equipment to the demonstration area. Hyanwu said cheerfully, reaching for the containers of scientific instruments the aliens had brought. Please be careful, Juwu cautioned, her eyes wide with alarm. Each container held delicate sensors, and together they weighed nearly 100 kilograms. No worries, Hyanwu replied, hefting the entire stack of containers with casual ease. The muscles in his arms barely tensed as he lifted what would require 3 of Tahoe's species to move. Where would you like these? Juwu pointed wordlessly to a corner table, too shocked to speak. Throughout the reception hall, Earth representatives moved with unsettling fluidity. Most disturbing were the human children, who had apparently been brought by staff members working the event. They dashed between adults, leaping and playing as if gravity was merely a suggestion rather than a crushing force. Have they engineered themselves? Minji whispered to Tahoe, watching a child jump repeatedly to touch a decorative banner hanging from the ceiling. No natural species could evolve in these conditions with such mobility. If they have, it would violate multiple cooperative treaties, Tahoe murmured back. But I see no evidence of genetic modification. They appear too varied. Their conversation halted as Director Sumi approached, carrying a glass of water in each hand. She moved with the same effortless grace as all the humans, her formal suit perfectly tailored to her tall frame. I notice you've been adjusting your compensators, she said, offering the water. Our medical team can help calibrate them better if you're uncomfortable. Tahoe accepted the drink, noting how the liquid barely rippled despite Earth's pull. You're very kind, he replied carefully. We're simply surprised by how advanced your civilization is, considering the harsh conditions of your world. Sumi tilted her head slightly. Harsh conditions. The gravity, Juwu interjected, unable to contain her scientific curiosity. Most spacefaring species evolved in environments with approximately half your gravitational pull. Understanding dawned on Sumi's face, followed by a diplomatic smile. Ah, I see. What you consider crushing, we simply call home. Fascinating, Juwu said. Have your people always lived under these conditions? As far as our evolutionary record shows, yes. Our distant ancestors climbed down from trees millions of years ago and adapted to walking upright on the plains. Trees? Minji asked. You have plant life that can grow tall against this gravity. Some of our trees reach over 100 meters tall, Sumi replied, seemingly surprised by the question. The aliens exchanged glances of disbelief. On their worlds, plant life struggled to grow more than 20 meters in height before collapsing under its own weight. The conversation might have continued normally if not for what happened next. A small human child, no more than 5 years old with dark hair tied in 2 small bunches atop her head, darted between diplomats. Her eyes lit up when she saw Minji, whose skin had a faint purple hue that fascinated the child. Before any adult could stop her, the little girl rushed up and grabbed Minji's hand. Your skin is pretty. Can you play with me? The child asked, eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Minji froze, unsure how to respond to a juvenile human. I thank you, but I. Before anyone could react, the child had pulled Minji into what the humans call a twirl, lifting the alien diplomat completely off the ground in a spin. To the humans, it seemed like innocent play, a child performing a simple dance move with a new friend. To the aliens, it was terrifying. This small, undeveloped human had just lifted an adult alien off the ground with one hand, spinning her as if she weighed nothing. 3 gravity compensators shorted out simultaneously with high-pitched whines. Dongho's, Juwu's, and a junior diplomat's. They staggered, suddenly feeling Earth's full gravitational pull for the first time. Minji, Tahoe called out in alarm. The human child, realizing something was wrong, immediately set Minji down with a look of confusion. I'm sorry, she said, lower lip trembling. Did I hurt you? Minji steadied herself against a table, her breathing rapid. No, child. I am unharmed. She looked at her colleagues with wide eyes that silently communicated her shock. Human attendants rushed forward to help the aliens whose compensators had failed. Sumli knelt beside the now crying child. "It's okay, Subin," she said gently. "Our friends aren't used to playing like we do. They come from a place where everyone is very light." "Like the moon?" the child asked, sniffling. "Something like that," Sumli replied with a smile. Tahoe watched as human medical staff quickly provided replacement compensators. The humans seemed genuinely concerned, not understanding what had just happened from the aliens' perspective. Later, in the privacy of their quarters, the delegation gathered in stunned silence. "A child," Dongho said finally. A human child lifted Minji with one hand. "Their muscle density must be incredible," Ju muttered, running calculations on her pad. "Their bone structure, too. No wonder they move so confidently." "This changes everything," Tahoe said quietly. "The cooperative's standard approach won't work here. These humans aren't just technologically advanced. They're physically superior in ways we never anticipated." "Should we recommend isolation?" Dongho asked. "They could be dangerous." Tahoe stared out the window at the blue planet below. "I don't think that's an option anymore. They've already detected our presence elsewhere. They've learned our languages. They've studied our biology. Then what do we do?" Minji asked, still shaken from her experience. "We negotiate," Tahoe said simply. "But we must be very, very careful. These gravity-defying beings could become either our greatest allies or our most formidable adversaries." Outside their quarters, Earth continued its rotation, oblivious to the concerns of the aliens who had come to study its inhabitants, but were now being studied themselves. The formal negotiations began on the third day of the cooperative's visit. The meeting room was designed with a large oval table, each side adjusted to the comfort requirements of their respective species. The human delegates sat comfortably in simple chairs, while the aliens had specially designed seats with gravity compensators built into the bases. Director Sunmi led the human delegation of 5 representatives. Ambassador Tahoe led his team of 4. Both sides had agreed to limit their numbers to reduce complexity. "We present our standard cooperation agreement," Tahoe said, transmitting the document to the human data systems. "The cooperative welcomes Earth as a probationary member, with full membership to be considered after 50 standard cycles." Sami thanked him with a polite nod. "We'll review the proposal and respond tomorrow." That evening, in the human delegation's private analysis room, Sami and her team carefully examined the document. "They're attempting to manipulate the resource allocations," Sami murmured to her deputy, Shunho, as they reviewed the cooperative's latest proposal. "See how they've buried the mineral rights clause under 17 subclauses." Shunho, a tall man with calm eyes and decades of experience in international diplomacy, nodded slowly. "Section 42B essentially grants them unrestricted mining rights in our asteroid belt, and Section 86 would limit our shipbuilding to vessels under 500 meters in length," added Security Advisor Mincio, circling the relevant text on her screen. "They've hidden technology transfer restrictions throughout," noted Science Liaison Datian. "We'd be giving them everything while receiving very little in return." The negotiations had been ongoing for 3 days. The cooperative clearly expected Earth to be grateful for any attention and to sign away rights to their system's resources with minimal resistance. It was the same approach they had used with dozens of other worlds, most of which had indeed been grateful for contact with advanced civilizations. "They still don't understand who they're dealing with," Juno observed. Across the table the next day, Tahoe conferred with his team, occasionally glancing at the humans with what might have been concern. Whatever advantage they thought they had was slipping away. "Shall I point out the discrepancies?" Junho asked Sumi, perfectly composed as he prepared his notes. "Let's counter with our own proposal," Sumi replied. "I think it's time we showed them how Earth negotiates." She stood, her tall frame casting a slight shadow over the table. "Ambassador Tayo, we thank the cooperative for their proposal. However, we find several elements unacceptable. Rather than proceeding point by point, we've prepared a comprehensive counteroffer." With a gesture, She sent the document to the aliens' devices. The team watched as Tahoe and his colleagues began reviewing it, their facial ridges changing color as they read further. The human proposal was masterful. Not only had they identified every hidden clause in the cooperative's document, but they had countered each one with clear, fair alternatives. Where the cooperative had tried to secure one-sided mineral rights, the humans proposed joint ventures. Where technology transfers had been restricted, the humans offered exchanges beneficial to both sides. Most surprisingly, the humans had included offers in areas the cooperative hadn't even considered: cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and joint defense initiatives. Tahoe's gravity compensator beeped yet again as he reached the final page. "How did you?" he began, clearly shocked at how thoroughly they had dismantled the cooperative's standard approach. "Ambassador," Sami interrupted gently, "humanity has been negotiating with itself for millennia. We've had countries, corporations, and ideologies all trying to outmaneuver each other. Did you really think we wouldn't notice your tactics?" The silence that followed was profound. Tahoe's team looked at one another, clearly unsure how to proceed. "Perhaps we should recess for the day," Tahoe finally suggested. "This counter-proposal requires careful consideration." "Of course," Sami agreed. "We'll reconvene tomorrow." As the alien delegation filed out, their movements stiff with what might have been unease, Shunho leaned closer to Sami. "They expected primitive beings grateful for cosmic attention," he whispered, "not equals demanding respect." That evening, in private quarters, Science Officer Juwu reported to the delegation. Her analysis screens displayed detailed information about human history, focusing particularly on their diplomatic and economic development. "It's not just their physical capabilities," she explained, her voice tinged with awe. "Their cognitive functions, their social structures, their diplomatic skills. They've been forged in an environment not just of high gravity, but of constant competition and cooperation." "Explain," demanded Tahoe, still disturbed by the day's events. Juwu pointed to her screens. "Most unified species we encounter achieved peace thousands of years before developing spaceflight. Humans are different. They remained divided into competing nations until very recently, driving technological advancement through both cooperation and conflict." "How recently?" asked Communications Officer Minji. "They only formed their United Earth government 50 years ago," Juwu replied. "Before that, they had hundreds of separate nations, thousands of languages, and competing economic systems, all on one planet." Dongho, the security chief, looked alarmed. "They developed spaceflight while still fighting each other." "Yes," confirmed Juwu. "And that's why their negotiation tactics are so sophisticated. They've been doing this with each other for their entire history." Tahoe stared out the viewport at the blue planet below. "We need to reconsider our approach." The next morning, when the delegations reconvened, the atmosphere had changed. Tahoe's team seemed more alert, more cautious. "Director Sunmi," Tahoe began, "your counterproposal was illuminating. The cooperative acknowledges that our standard agreement is not suitable for Earth's unique situation." Sunmi nodded, saying nothing, allowing the silence to work in her favor, another negotiation tactic as old as human diplomacy. "We propose starting fresh," Tahoe continued. "A true partnership, recognizing Earth as an equal from the beginning." "That would be acceptable," Sunmi replied. "Shall we begin with mutual defense arrangements?" Tahoe's ridges paled slightly. "Defense?" "Of course," Sunmi said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "As you've noted in your reports to your superiors, yes, we detected those transmissions. Humanity's physical capabilities and resource-rich system make us potential threats if not properly managed." The aliens froze, suddenly aware that humans had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. "We prefer to be allies rather than threats," Sunmi continued smoothly, "but that requires mutual respect. Shall we proceed on those terms?" Tahoe looked at his team, then back at Sunmi. For the first time, he smiled. a genuine expression of respect. "I believe we shall," he said, "and I suspect the cooperative has much to learn from Earth." The fourth day of negotiations had been productive. Both sides were finding common ground on trade, cultural exchange, and shared research initiatives. Taiho felt cautiously optimistic as he returned to his quarters to prepare for the next day's session. That's when he received the encrypted message from the Cooperative High Command. Assessment of human threat level. Severe. Authorization granted for Protocol 47B. Proceed with caution. Taiho stared at the message in disbelief. Protocol 47B was a crisis assessment procedure, essentially a controlled emergency to test a species' capabilities under stress. It was rarely used and often controversial. He immediately contacted Security Chief Dongo. "Did you receive?" "Yes," Dongo replied tersely. "The shuttle just docked with the special equipment. 3 operatives from Central Security arrived with it." "This is a mistake," Taiho said. "The humans have been negotiating in good faith. Orders are orders, Ambassador. The operatives will handle everything. You will maintain deniability." Taiho felt sick as he ended the communication. He knew what was coming, and he could do nothing to stop it. The next morning began normally. The human and alien delegations met in the main conference room to continue their discussions. Taiho noticed the 3 new additions to his security team positioned near the doors, the special operatives who had arrived overnight. 2 hours into the meeting, it happened. The emergency klaxon blared through the orbital center. Red warning lights flashed along the corridors. The station's AI announced in multiple languages, "Critical failure in Eastern Wing. Oxygen levels dropping. Depressurization imminent. All personnel evacuate immediately." A maintenance robot had malfunctioned, severing critical life support systems, or so it appeared. Taiho knew better. The malfunction had been orchestrated by hardliners in the cooperative who believed humans were too dangerous to negotiate with. The plan was simple: create a crisis, observe human weakness in emergency conditions, then leverage that knowledge. What no one expected was how the humans would respond. Within seconds, emergency protocols activated. The human delegates didn't panic. They didn't flee. Instead, they moved with practiced precision. Sunny immediately tapped her wrist device. "Emergency Response Team Alpha to East Wing," she ordered calmly. "Medical to Central Hub. Engineering to Life Support Control." This is not a drill. Taiho watched in amazement as the humans in the room organized themselves instantly. Shunho began directing evacuation of the aliens, ensuring that each had functional gravity compensators and emergency oxygen supplies. Mincio, the security advisor, was already accessing the station's systems, working to isolate the damaged sections. "Ambassador," Sunny said firmly, "please keep your delegation here. It's the safest location. I need to assist with rescue operations." Before Taiho could respond, she was gone, moving at a speed that seemed impossible even for a human. The other human delegates followed, each heading to different emergency stations. "What's happening?" asked Juwu, her facial ridges pale with fear. "A test," Taiho replied quietly. "One we should never have initiated." Through the station's monitoring systems, they watched the crisis unfold. The Eastern Wing housed laboratories and several alien delegations from other worlds. The section was rapidly losing pressure and oxygen. In a standard emergency, casualties would be inevitable. But this was Earth's station, and these were humans responding. Emergency teams in lightweight pressure suits rushed into the depressurizing sections without hesitation. Some humans even moved through decompressed areas with minimal protection, holding their breath for what should have been impossible periods of time as they carried injured aliens to safety. The station's systems showed Sunny moving through the most damaged section. 2 junior members of Taiho's delegation had been caught in the initial blast. The monitoring feed showed her lifting both aliens, each weighing at least 70 kilograms in Earth gravity, one under each arm, running through corridors while barely breaking a sweat. "Impossible," whispered Dongo. "No," Tahoe replied. Just human. Within 20 minutes, the emergency was contained. All personnel were accounted for. The damaged systems were isolated and temporary life support established. What should have been a catastrophic failure with multiple casualties had been handled with efficiency that bordered on the miraculous. In the aftermath, as repair crews worked efficiently, Sumney approached Tayo with an expression he was beginning to recognize as controlled anger. Her formal suit was torn at the shoulder. There was a burn mark on her left arm. She had a small cut above her eye that was already clotting. This wasn't an accident, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Tahoe looked at the three special operatives standing across the room. They stared back, their expressions unreadable. Not all in the cooperative welcome new members, Tahoe admitted, especially those who challenge our understanding of what's possible. Sumney's gaze was level. Ambassador, let me be clear. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting itself. We've nearly destroyed our civilization multiple times. We've developed weapons that can crack planets. We've also created art that can move hearts across species barriers, medicine that can cure what was thought incurable, and philosophies that embrace diversity across the stars. She leaned closer. We would much rather be your allies than your adversaries. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Tahoe was acutely aware that his own security team was watching him. The three operatives were evaluating his response. Director Sumney, he said finally, loud enough for everyone to hear. On behalf of the Galactic Cooperative, I offer my deepest apologies for this incident. I will personally ensure that those responsible are held accountable. He turned to the special operatives. You will return to the ship immediately. Your presence is no longer required or welcome. The operatives hesitated, looking at each other in confusion. That is a direct order, Tahoe said firmly, and I will be filing a formal protest with High Command regarding Protocol 47B and its implementation here. After the operatives had left, escorted by human security, Tahoe turned back to Sumney. I don't expect you to forgive this breach of trust, he said, but I hope we can move forward. What I've seen today, what everyone has seen, proves that humanity is not just physically impressive. Your cooperation, your coordination in crisis, your willingness to risk yourselves for others. These are the qualities the cooperative was founded to promote. Sumney studied him for a long moment. You didn't know about this in advance, did you? I knew it was coming, Tahoe admitted. I was informed too late to stop it. That's no excuse. No, it's not, she agreed. But it's a start. She extended her hand, a human gesture of agreement that Tahoe had learned during their negotiations. We'll continue our talks tomorrow. Tonight, I suggest you send a very clear message to your High Command. And what message is that? Tahoe asked, taking her hand carefully. Sumney's expression was both serious and slightly amused. That they've been dramatically underestimating what it means to evolve on a world with high gravity, and that testing us further would be unwise. Later that night, as Tahoe drafted his report to High Command, he looked out at Earth glowing blue in the darkness. He realized that the cooperative had made a fundamental error in its first assessment of humans. They weren't dangerous because of their physical strength or their technological prowess. They were formidable because they combined that strength with something even rarer, the capacity to use it wisely. The message Tahoe sent to Cooperative High Command that night was clear and urgent. The attempted sabotage had not only failed, but had revealed human capabilities far beyond initial assessments. His recommendation was equally clear: pursue genuine partnership, not manipulation. 3 days later, the cooperative's response arrived in the form of a massive diplomatic vessel twice the size of Tahoe's ship. The Supreme Council itself had decided to take direct control of the negotiations. The Cooperative High Council's arrival was met with meticulous human hospitality. Landing platforms had been adjusted to accommodate the Council's larger shuttle. The reception hall was decorated with symbols from both human and cooperative cultures. Even the air mixture had been carefully calibrated for the comfort of the senior council members. Supreme Counselor Do-Yun had come personally to assess the situation. Tall even by his species standards, with facial ridges that had darkened to deep blue with age and authority, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had overseen the addition of 17 worlds to the cooperative. He was prepared to implement the isolation protocols reserved for dangerous species. Tahoe stood nervously beside Director Sunmi as Do-Yun's shuttle docked. The Council rarely involved itself directly in first contact situations. Their presence indicated just how seriously they were taking the human question. Supreme Counselor, Tahoe said with a formal bow as Do-Yun emerged from the shuttle. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. Do-Yun barely acknowledged Tahoe before turning his attention to Sunmi. Director, I look forward to discussing your world's future relationship with the cooperative. His tone made it clear this was not a negotiation between equals. We're honored by your visit, Sunmi replied smoothly. We've arranged a tour of our surface facilities tomorrow. Today, perhaps you would like to rest after your journey. There is no need, Do-Yun said. Let us proceed with the tour immediately. The shuttle journey to Earth was tense. Do-Hyun and his 3 senior advisors used enhanced gravity compensators, yet still seemed uncomfortable as they approached the planet's surface. The landing site was a research facility near the western coast of the landmass humans called North America. As they exited the shuttle, even with compensators, the council members moved slowly, cautiously. Human staff hurried about their duties, seemingly unaware of the crushing force that so affected their visitors. You operate in this gravity constantly, one of Do-Yun's advisors asked in disbelief. This is normal for us, Sunmi explained. Our bodies evolved here. The tour proceeded through laboratories, manufacturing facilities, and agricultural centers. Do-Hyun observed everything with critical eyes, asking pointed questions about human technology, population, and resource management. They were in the main research building when the first tremor hit. The floor swayed slightly. Instruments rattled on tables. The alien visitors looked around in confusion. What is happening? Do-Hyun demanded. Before Sunmi could answer, a much stronger shake rocked the building. Warning lights activated automatically as a computerized voice announced, Earthquake warning. Magnitude 8.2. Take cover immediately. A genuine earthquake struck -8.2 on the human scale, powerful enough to level cities without proper engineering. As buildings swayed and ground shook, Do-Hyun expected panic. His own legs could barely keep him upright even with the compensator at maximum. Instead, he saw coordination. Humans not only maintained their footing on the trembling ground, but immediately formed protective barriers around their alien guests. Staff members moved to doorways and supported the council members. Sunmi herself stood perfectly balanced despite the rolling floor, giving calm instructions to her team. Emergency protocols. Escort our guests to the reinforced central chamber. Human security personnel surrounded the alien delegation, creating a protective formation. They moved with the swaying building rather than fighting it, guiding their guests to safety with practiced ease. In the reinforced chamber, as aftershocks continued to rumble, Do-Hyun stared at Sunmi with new understanding. Your planet actively tries to kill you, he said finally. Sunmi smiled slightly. Earth challenges us, yes. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, extreme temperatures. These are normal parts of our existence. We adapt. We overcome. And you still developed spaceflight, advanced technology, art, and culture. Perhaps because of those challenges, not despite them, Sunmi suggested. Necessity drives innovation. When they returned to the orbital center the next day, something had changed in Do-Hyun's demeanor. He requested a formal meeting with the full human delegation. Later, in the reinforced conference chamber, Director Sunmi presented Earth's final proposal. The room was silent as she outlined a vision that no one in the cooperative had considered. The cooperative has identified 42 planets with resources you need, but cannot colonize due to high gravity, she said. We've studied your database. These worlds have gravity similar to or slightly higher than Earth's. We propose a partnership. Human colonists will establish outposts on these worlds, developing infrastructure your species can use through jointly managed facilities. Doyan leaned forward, his ridges pale with surprise. You would willingly settle death worlds. We would willingly settle new homes, Sumi corrected gently. And in exchange, we ask for equal membership in the cooperative, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The proposal was revolutionary. Worlds that the cooperative had written off as uninhabitable could become productive members of the galactic community. Resources previously inaccessible could be harvested. And humans, these strange, strong beings from a high-gravity world, would gain access to the stars. This would require significant changes to our expansion protocols, one of Doyan's advisors objected. Change is the only constant in the universe, Sumi replied. We've proven we can adapt to challenges. Can the cooperative do the same? 3 days of intense negotiations followed. Earth would join the cooperative as a full member, not a probationary one. Human colonies would be established on high-gravity worlds, with joint administration and profit sharing with the cooperative. Earth would share its gravity-resistant engineering and medicine. The cooperative would share faster-than-light technology and access to established trade routes. The following week, as the agreement was formalized in the Great Hall of the Orbital Center, Ambassador Tato overheard 2 junior cooperative officers discussing their experience while watching humans effortlessly loading heavy cargo crates. I thought the gravity would be the biggest challenge of this mission, one said. No, replied the other, watching humans effortlessly loading cargo that would crush them. It's not gravity we have to worry about. It's the humans we have to negotiate with. Tahoe smiled, his gravity compensator finally properly calibrated to Earth standard. Perhaps that was the lesson all along. The universe had many forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and now humanity.